Luke Pollard.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. On Thursday, the 12th of August, at around 6:10 p.m, the first shots were fired in Keyham. In the space of a short amount of time that followed, our city was forever changed. That day, we tragically lost 5 members of our community. We remember Maxine Davison, Stephen Washington, Kate Shepherd, Lee Martin, and his 3-year-old daughter, Sophie Martin. 5 people, mothers, fathers, brothers and sisters, friends, neighbours and colleagues, members of our community whose lives were taken from us too soon. We also remember 2 others who were injured and taken to hospital that day, whose recovery we continue to hope is as full and fast as possible. This incident has devastated the proud and tight-knit communities of Keyham and Ford in Plymouth. Tonight I will not be speaking about the causes of the shooting. The inquest and the ongoing investigations will set out the answers to those in due course. I want to focus on how our community will get the support it needs, not just today, tomorrow, next week or next month, but for the coming years. Support to come to terms with what has happened and hopefully support to heal. We know the earlier the help arrives, the greater the effect it will have. Our community in Plymouth is facing a collective trauma. We know that there are over 300 eyewitnesses to the shootings, people who have seen a body or blood on their streets, and many of those are children. Children who should have never have witnessed anything like this in their young lives. There's nothing that prepares you as an MP for the conversation with a parent about how their child saw someone get shot in front of them, what you should say, what you should do, who they should turn to, and not always having the answers to give them. Like many of the community responders, I had conversations like this, not just once or twice, but many times every day in the aftermath of the shooting. My experience, though, has been no different to the school staff at Ford Primary School, who opened their doors to the community just hours after the shooting, or to the street pastors and the police officers and the PCSOs, the local vicars or the staff at our local co-op, or the residents told to stay in their homes for days after the shooting with the bodies of their neighbours on the streets outside. I say these things not to elicit and seek sympathy, but to illustrate what collective trauma means in a very real human sense. Biddick Drive in Keyham could be any street in any of our communities, and that's what makes this tragedy so scary for all of us. Plymouth is a trauma-informed city, and the experience of communities in similar circumstances in the past has shown us that after an event like this, there are consequences that can be predicted. More children will struggle at school, get lower grades, and drop out of school earlier. More people will face unemployment and insecure work. More people will be a victim of crime, and more people will themselves commit more crime. More people will experience and suffer from domestic and sexual abuse. More people will suffer from severe mental health problems, anxiety and depression. I see it as my job as Keyham's MP to do everything I can to stop that from happening. And as a city-wide response, local councillors from all parties, community leaders, the Police and Crime Commissioner, all shared in this effort. This really has been a Team Plymouth response. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I've never been so proud of my city as I was in the days after the shooting. There was an incredible response on the day from the paramedics and the police who rushed to the scene, the 4 air ambulances who attended, the doctors and the nurses, the City Council and its staff, the local schools and many more. Our whole community stepped up. The teams at Ford Primary School and Keyham Barton, as well as Stewart Road and other schools, have been superb, as have the churches who opened their doors immediately, St Mark's and St Thomas's in particular. And I want to thank the local councillors, Sally Creswell, Jemima Lang, Bill Stevens, Mark Coker, Charlotte Cree, Tudor Evans, Gareth Derrick and Stephen Hulme, and the Police and Crime Commissioner, Alison Hernandez, and her team for the work they have done. This was a Team Plymouth response. I also want to thank the Wolsey Trust for coordinating and fundraising. The Plymouth Together Fund has already raised thousands for the funerals, for the victims and for the community, but more is needed and donations are still being made online. Local businesses, large and small, have also stepped up, like Zoe Stevens from the Co-op, who provided candles for the vigils and cups of teas at the events, and Richard Barron, who dropped everything to install more home security for the residents. When your child can't sleep because of what has happened, and they're scared that a bad man is going to come through the window, a simple window restrictor is worth more than its weight in gold. It really is. But I want to thank in particular Keyham Neighbourhood Watch, Sarah, John, Simon, Lena, Laura, Kiki and Hazel, and its relentless and positive chair, Kevin Spotston. I want to thank everyone for the outpouring of support from across the country. The support we saw in Keyham was cross-party. The Home Secretary and the Shadow Home Secretary visited to share the nation's condolences. And it's important to say here, because some people are sometimes sceptical of politicians in all parties, that party politics is irrelevant here. It's not just secondary, it's irrelevant. It is the people of Keyham and Ford who are the focus for me and for my colleagues on a cross-party basis in Plymouth. It's made me extraordinarily proud of our city, and despite the tragedy, we have come together and cared for one another, but we need more help. Our conversations with ministers have been productive and constructive. The funding bid prepared by Plymouth City Council, Devon and Cornwall Police, the Police and Crime Commissioner, our local NHS and Live Well South West, our mental health provider, and backed on a cross-party basis, is reasonable, it's proportionate, and it's laser-focused on tackling the trauma that is caused by this mass shooting. In the weeks that followed the tragedy, we pushed the entire city's resource into Keyham. We managed this, and we can manage this only for a few weeks, but not on a long-lasting basis. And that's why we're asking for support now. So we have what we need, not just for Keyham and Ford and North Prospect, but for the rest of Plymouth as well. We've asked for additional educational psychologists and social workers to help our children deal with the trauma they've experienced. We've asked for help for more support for teachers and local schools, so teachers and teaching assistants and school staff can help the children deal with what they've witnessed. We've asked for more social workers and a higher capacity for children's social care, because we know our community is going to have more complex needs in the months and years ahead. We've asked for more support for community safety partnership, so families can be reassured that they are safe in their homes. And we've asked for more youth workers to help our young people get through this and stay resilient. We've asked for more bereavement and mental health support to help people process the things they've seen and how they're feeling. We've asked for more victim support to make sure that those who have lost everything have everything they need at this terrible time. And we've asked for more police on our streets to reassure a community where there are still some people scared to leave their homes, scared to return to work, or fearful of letting their kids out to play. The bid we've put together is partly about policing, partly about education, partly about mental health, partly about recovery and healing, but it is a bid that all ties together, that deals with every aspect of our community. And it's in that way that I think the promises that were made to Keyham and to Plymouth in the days after the shooting, that our community would not be left behind, that the victims would not be forgotten, that help would be provided, are so important to remember now. The ask we've made of ministers is a big ask. It's a multi-million-pound ask, and it's a difficult one to receive as a minister halfway through a budget year, I'm sure. But it is important that we take time to look at what a difference it would make. The focus for me is on the immediate support, what can be done in the next year in particular. And we've tried to request funds from current government spending pots that fit with departmental spending priorities. We have had and continue to have good conversations with the Ministry of Justice, the Home Office, the Department for Education, the Department for Health and Social Care, and the Department for Communities. I think this underlines the importance of having a lead minister to coordinate and pull together a pan-government response in this respect, and I'm very grateful to the Minister in his place for doing that role, for working across departments to help us get the support that we need. Mr Deputy Speaker, there has to be a national debate that takes place as a result of the shooting, about strengthening our gun laws, about proper mental health support, about addressing the poison that is lurking in the rotten underbelly of the internet, and about how to help angry young men. Keyham's voice will be heard in that debate, but the focus right now should be on getting the support that is needed to the people who need it right now. Plymouth needs big hearts to prevail in giving us support, and calm and cool heads to prevail in the changing of laws. I do not want any other community to go through what we have in Plymouth. And that means the changes must be right, and they must be right first time. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this has been the hardest month of my adult life. I live half a mile from the shooting, and this is my community. I think we're all hurting. I'm hurting, and the sense of loss is deep and profound. And it's the children, for me, that are the hardest aspect of this. The children who witnessed it, not just the toddlers, but the teenagers as well. And I think it's worth saying at this point that it's okay not to be okay. I haven't been okay at times, and I'm still probably not okay now. I think none of us that experience this really are. Each of us will process the pain and loss differently. Some will do so quickly. Others will take weeks, months, or even years to start to heal, or to feel able to come forward to talk about what they've experienced. For the victims' families, the loss of a loved one will mean there's a part of them missing for the rest of their lives. Sometimes I feel really silly having these feelings because I didn't see anyone die. But I did see the forensic tents over the bodies, the pressure-washed pavements where the blood had been cleaned away. And I spoke to dozens and dozens of people who saw someone killed in front of them. And I think I have a responsibility to take my own advice. So I've been getting some help as well to help me deal with what I've experienced and the stories that have been shared with me. Now, not everyone has to make a speech in the House of Commons to admit it, but help is available if you need it, and I encourage people to come forward. I think this is not a sign of weakness. I think this is just an admission of being human. That's why the support we're asking for is so badly needed. It keeps the support workers in our community. It provides the reassurance for folks to leave their homes, for kids to play outside, importantly for kids just to be kids again, and for all of us to start to heal. Mr. Deputy Speaker, Plymouth is a strong city. We always look out for one another, and it is in the darkest hour that even the tiniest glimmers of light shine the brightest. And it was the compassion of neighbours, the love of friends and family, the messages of support, and the expertise of professionals, and the promise that we would not be left behind that saw us through. I've spent a lot of time speaking to this minister and to other ministers and officials and making the case, as have colleagues in our city council, in the police, in our NHS, in our mental health services, and right across our Plymouth. The case for immediate and long-term funding, I think, is an important one. And I'm grateful that it has been listened to with respect and with dignity. And I hope when the minister gets to his feet in a moment, he will have good news for us to share. For those that are watching in Plymouth, I think it is really important that we say, we will get through this, and we'll get through this together. Thank you.